Hello everybody, Tim here again. Well, today we have dryer problems. So dryer's not heating up, not warming up enough to dry the clothes. First thing I want to check is for the voltage. So I get the voltmeter here. There's the 220 plug. This is an electric dryer. So best thing to do is check both sides, and I can show you that later when I unplug it. Showing about 240 some volts, perfect. To the common it should be about half of that, each side to the common. 123, pretty good, and common again. I can find the, without rolling my face in front of it, 123 on the other side. So what I mean by the common is, this is the electrical outlet, it's 220 volts. So I'm going to zoom up on that. We're not worried about the meter anymore. I'll just show you right here. Oops. See the three prongs. This is the common. That's one hot side. That's the other hot side. If you measure across both hot sides, you get the full 220 roughly volts. If you measure from one side of the common, you get 110. One side of the common, 110. Coming in your house, you have two 110 lines and it's split. That's how you get the 220 for some of your appliances. Now, if you wouldn't get the voltage right there, you have to go check your breaker box. If you don't know about breaker boxes and fuses and breakers, have an electrician check it. But we know we have the voltage here, so next thing we're going to do is look at the dryer and see, is the dryer getting warm? Pull the wet clothes out. So the dryer has a safety switch right here. That's what makes it turn off when you open and close the door. In order to do this, to look at it, we're going to have to circumvent that. So just a little piece of wood up in there will just close it enough, and it'll stay in there. Inside the dryer, on the left hand side, there's a little vent. You'll see it. And on the right hand side, there's a larger vent. The left hand side is the one we're going to be looking at. And when I turn the dryer on, it should start to glow red, because that's where the heating element is. Okay, you want to be careful not to stick yourself in there too far, because as you can see, it's spinning. So we're going to watch that for a couple seconds and see if that starts to get red and indicate that it's getting hot. A little bit of background with this. The problem was, as over the last couple of weeks, the dryer it took longer and longer to clean your clothes. I guess it was not heating up as much. I did come down and look at it once. It was red. I cleaned everything out. I didn't take it apart or anything. But clothes have been in there trying to dry for about 3 or 4 cycles now, and they're still wet. So as you can see, we have nothing red showing up there at all. That means the dryer is not heating up at all. So next thing we have to do is take it apart. Okay, so in our little world here, we've removed the dryer from the wall, and down here is the hose that comes off. That generally just pulls right off. Of course, the electrical outlet is unplugged. So this is the part I want to take off. Your screws around there. I'll take them off and you don't have to watch. I guess I should say I'll take those off and you don't have to watch. Okay, now all the screws are off. Pull this up out of the way. One more screw. That one's just a small one. It doesn't look too dirty. Alright, and now some things here that we want to look at. And let me see. I'm going to move this, see if I can fix it so that I can get the most amount of light. Alrighty, so in this right here is where the actual heating element is. It's got a heat sensor there, a heat sensor further down, and I'm going to spin this around so we can see if if I can see what I'm doing. So what I'm going to do is pull the plugs off, and just first thing I'm going to check is the heating element. Okay. See if I can do this without knocking the camera over. Kind of tight, confined area. This down here is the wires for the heating element. Just like any resistance test, we'll pull one of the leads off. I'm going to check the heater right now. I'm going to jump it. Okay, the heater seems to be working. So now there's several different switches involved. There's a high temperature switch, and there's a cycling switch, and then there's also a fuse. So I'm going to pull off the wires for both of the switches, if I can. And again, they're kind of in series, so if either one of those is open, that causes your issue. So the first one we'll try. Hey, I got nothing on that one. That one works. So this guy right here seems to be the problem. We'll take this out and take a look at it in a minute. There's also a fuse that I've actually never seen one of these go bad, but it's right here. Pull a wire off it. Check that. That tests good. And then there's another protection switch right here. So we're going to take this switch off up here and take a look at it. I'm going to grab my probably can't get at it with that. Either way, it's not like we're going to see anything in the switch that's bad. But let me see. Well, I tell you, the wiring on the switch looks like it got awful hot, so we're going to replace that as well. I don't know if you can see that. I'll see what I have, if I have anything to replace that with. But let's look at the switch now that it's completely out, and it's completely open. Let me see if I have another one of these we can test with. Oop. And if you see, the terminal just ripped off. So yes, I'll say that did get mighty hot. Alrighty, well, I replaced those with some good high quality copper connectors. Okay, so the parts came, and well, as you can see, the new one, not only is it not broken, but here we go. That was the lead that fell off the other. Remember, I had to replace the terminals because they were burned and that lead was burned. But I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this. Stand by. Sorry if I'm making you dizzy. This will be going back on the stand in a minute. I don't know if I can get both the ohm meter and the switch in the same shot enough that you can see it and read it. I'll push this right up here beside the meter. There you can see. So then, I guess that won't work too well. Well, that's the new one. Also, it came with a new heater coils, and even though the other one tested fine, I'm still going to replace it. They're real easy to replace. There's just a couple screws on the side you take off, and this whole unit gets replaced as one piece. And I got the other sensors too that are involved, and any of them that match my dryer will be getting used. And why not? I don't want to have to take it apart again in 6 months or anything. This dryer is probably about, I'd say, close to 30 years old. It's an estate, but it's made by Whirlpool. But it's been a good dryer, and so be it. So I'm going to move on to replacing. I'll put that in first. All these are held in by 1/4 inch sheet metal screws. When I say 1/4 inch, I mean the head's 1/4 inch. So you can use a nut driver or one of those multi-purpose screwdrivers that has a changeable bits. You can just take the bit out, and usually they're 1/4 inch. Or of course a ratchet. I don't recommend pliers. Okay, so here we are at the back of the dryer again, and I'm going to put the heat sensor in, and I'm not going to bother to film it while I do it, because all you're going to be looking at is the back of my head. And you saw me take it out. And if I run into anything that you should know about, then I'll definitely start back up. But I'll zoom in real quick and show you where the actual the heater coil goes. If you look at that panel there, you can see the very bottom is discolored. It's not that it's discolored, it's just a different material. This part here, that you take, there's a couple of screws, I believe 3 altogether, and the whole thing comes off. There's also a heat sensor inside there at the very bottom, so when you have that off, you want to replace that as well, if you got one. If yours is measuring fine with the ohm meter and you didn't get one, so be it. Okay, the new sensor's in, and the heating coils are removed. That's the old coil, and you can see the side by side. That's the new coil. That's what I mean. They don't look like they're going to fail, but they're already rusty, so I don't know that I've ever replaced this. Anyhow, it all came as one wonderful kit. So one thing, you don't really have to worry about too much which wire goes on which lead, just as long as you don't confuse them and put a sensor lead on there. So take them off one at a time. But when you put it all back together, because they're such heavy wires and because they've been in that place for quite a while, they kind of want to go where they're supposed to go. So if you put it in and you find you got to force wires or twist wires or do something, you probably have something wrong. But as you can see, these wires are just kind of sitting here, and they're kind of already lined that way. They're not turned sideways or anything, so they'll line right back up. So I'll throw this back on, and I'll replace this sensor, and we'll be back. And as promised, I told you I'd tell you if I ran into anything in particular. So let's see if make sure that's gonna be where I want to be. This switch right here, or sensor right here rather, is very similar to this one, but there's a different wiring configuration on it. So I either have to make a changeover to go from a female to a male connector, or for now I can just put the original one back in. Again, these ones are a kind of like a safety switch. It's after the temperature sensor, so they don't really get used much. They don't have a lot of other than overheating that saves it from should the dryer run away with temperature. But there's also one of them in here as well, so it's not that crucial, but I would have liked to have replaced it. One of the other things I found was, of the two heating elements, you can see right here there's a screw hole, whereas actually it goes this way. On this one there is not, but that's not a problem. I'll just use a self-tapping screw. That's the screws that are in there, or I can start it with a little 1/8 inch drill bit so that there's a hole there, and then it'll pull tight. Other than that, everything inside is the same. It's a little bit different on the case. You can see for a different type of sensor, but these are pretty much generic fits-alls. Be back. Okay, so everything's back in there, and we're ready to put the cover back on. This would be a good time if yours is dirty in there to either get a brush or a vacuum cleaner and just go around this. I had done it well before I got the parts while I was killing time. And you can even get up inside here. This goes, make sure it's clean in here. This goes where your fan is. You'll get some remnant stuff in there. You can run your hand around it and pull it out. That goes to where the fan is. that actually drives off the main drum. So you want to do that. So let me just dust it off a little bit better, and I'm going to put the back on, and then we'll hook it up and see how it works. Okay, we're back off the mount. I have my little piece of wood here. Actually, it's part of a clothes hanger clip, or whatever you call them. And now we're going to turn it on and see if it works. And I can show you what I was referring to at the beginning of the video to see if it lights up red. So powered up without blowing any fuses or breakers. So again, we're going to look here, back in there, give it about 30 seconds or so. Okay, you can see it turning red. That's the reflections from the coil, from the heater coil. It looks a whole lot redder in my monitor than it is. But anyhow, so if you want to know if your dryer's low in heat, that's where you look, to make a long story short. So everything appears to be a satisfactory rebuild here, or repair here rather. So we'll do some laundry and see how it works. Now that'll go on and off, that light back there. The heater will go on and off as it reaches temperature. It'll go back off, then it'll come back on. So that's it. Thanks for watching. I hope it's helpful for you.